Greetings and welcome. Appreciate you guys tuning in to RPMMO Radio. This will be our 9th episode. It will be You Might Have a Stalker If. So, appreciate you guys tuning in to us. Today we will have a slightly different guest. Sib is actually down with our son down in Oklahoma City and baseball stuff for the entire weekend. So, we will have Jazz, who,
Hello.
through a miracle, is actually here, which is the reason we also have Strafe, who is an old friend of ours.
How's it going, guys?
Hey, buddy. So, Strafe was here with us because it was pretty much just going to be me, because according to Jazz, turns out when your internet is connected to a bridge that is no longer existing, it pulls 3 miles of the internet out of the ground.
Yeah.
And I guess they got that fixed far faster than they thought they would.
Well, they found out it actually wasn't the bridge. It was actually vandalism. Somebody actually did it to it.
Damn Russians. It's always, or when in doubt, blame the Dark Elves. That's the way to go about it.
It's always the Drow's fault.
That's right. And speaking of Dark Elves, Strafe, who usually plays them a lot of times, is an old friend of ours. I've known him probably just a little bit less than I've known Jazz through EQ2. Is that about right, bud?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's about right.
Yeah. So, but, so we have to, I keep saying his name is Strafe because that's how he told me to say it. So you're going to have to explain why I'm saying it as though I'm some sort of crazy, like, brain-dead Canadian.
Okay, so originally it was just Strafe. It's like, the move left or right. I was a kid. I really liked Final Fantasy VII. I kind of robbed the name off the hero in that game, the last name.
Cloud.
And Cloud, yeah. And then when I was in community college, my professor was trolling me hard while we were playing an FPS, and he said, "I'm going to go after Strafe." And I kind of liked the name, and it stuck, and I've kept it ever since.
Yeah. Well, that works. So that's why he's here. We actually have, and we appreciate you. He was going to be it was just going to be me and him until Jazz just literally, what was it, like 3 hours ago, got her internet back. Yeah. So
miraculously, in 3 hours, got back on board, and I'm happy to be here. So thanks.
Yeah, no problem. Appreciate you coming on. We also have another thing coming up that we're going to sort of tease here. We're going to be doing a crossover thing with a community known as rphq.com. They're very similar to us. We'll have be doing something roleplay with the human Floyd. Is not to be confused with the cyborg Floyd. He is 100% human. He's a pretty cool guy. He's been helping us promote the show. We're gonna help promote his website and stuff like that, and kind of do a cross promotional thing. We'll actually have him. Technically, he was supposed to be our first guest, but I'm not counting Strafe as our first guest. He was more of a pinch hitter host, so he's not an actual guest. And I've also known him for, like I said, almost a decade probably. So that he doesn't count. Sorry, bud.
That's all right. The spider used to be stepped on.
You have family. You're used to hearing it, and after we get through this whole episode, you'll understand he's really used to being stepped on. But
yeah, pun intended.
So the next episode on the 10th, we'll have the human Floyd on. We'll probably be going over a topic that he's a little more familiar with than a lot of us are, which is he plays a lot of the animal non-human characters, and kind of go into that role play, which in things of that nature as well. He's been a really cool guy. I've really enjoyed getting to chat with him. It's been pretty cool. We really appreciate what he's doing to try to help us get out there, and likewise we're gonna do what we can in our small effort to help get him and his website and his Facebook, or not his Facebook, MySpace page, no, YouTube. If you go to YouTube and search RPHQ, they actually have a lot of good stuff. They have a lot of guides for roleplay. They also have a lot of stuff from other roleplay podcasts and stuff that are out there for various games. From one gal roleplays in Rift. Another one is a bunch of people that actually do basically live action roleplay because they're on in ESO on PS4. So they're, obviously it's not really the environment to be able to type it out like we do here on the computers. So they actually talk it out, which more power to them, because that's something I'm I'm doing a podcast, and even I'm like, that makes me nervous. So we look forward to that. Of course, you can always listen to us if you're watching us live at twitch.tv/rpmmradio, or visit our website at rpmmradio.com. We also have a pretty fun Instagram where I make all sorts of stupid memes, and people seem to enjoy them. It's just because I watch a lot of funny videos and pictures, and I think I always have thoughts of like, that one would be funny and very RPM or MMO like. So visit us on Instagram there. That's pretty much it for my legal obligations of taking care of introducing everybody and getting everyone hyped up for the next episode and our something we'll be doing with our PHQ. So now we go into what have we been doing for roleplay and gaming. And for that, I'll hit Jazz first. What's up, Jazz? What are you doing?
Well, I spent the better part of 4 days not having any internet, so I wasn't doing anything.
All right, so moving on. No, just kidding.
Prior to that, really, the first part of the week is usually pretty busy for me. So So that was really, kind of boring. I roleplayed a little bit, and then my internet died. So, whee!
Yeah, nothing overly groundbreaking or exciting. Nothing like that.
No, a lot of we're getting ready because school's out here, so we're cleaning house like mad, and I've got the boys working their fingers to the bone, according to them.
Yeah.
I gave them each a list. I told them start at the top and work your way down. In order? Yes, in order.
In order. No, just pick and choose. That way you can forget to do stuff.
I also told them that anything that was checked, that was not done, is an hour away from computer time for each one.
Harsh.
I want my house clean.
That's right.
So there you go. There's my week.
Just keeping the kids in line. So how about you, Strafe? What have you been doing?
So I've been in ESO, having a good time, catching up with the traits and stuff that everybody's leveling up with. And for RP wise, tonight I believe we're having our 3rd annual Order of Aldmeris wine tasting and poetry hour. So lots of Altmer, lots of piles and snootiness. It's always a good time.
Indubitably.
Indeed, sir.
Quite. Pretty much the same. Playing ESO. It's pretty much everyone's in our old group of EQ2 friends game of choice at the moment. So, but continuing on with Tarvala in her, obviously for an Aldunmer guild that she's also in Morrowind, which apparently is a big thing to Dark Elves. Who knew?
Just a small thing.
Just everybody.
Yeah, just a little bit.
Yeah. But it's been fun. I've enjoyed it, but I also never played the Elder Scrolls Morrowind, the single-player part from like 15 years ago. So I don't have the nostalgia that a lot of people have, or the nostalgia outrage when things are jacked up like a lot of people have. So I've just enjoyed it as a brand new zone with lots of shit to do. I like the quest with Naryu because she's actually one of the more interesting characters they have in there. So that's been a lot of fun. But outside of that, it's been basically just continuing on Tarvala. I had a little bit of roleplay with Sib on one of her characters, and more of an introductory thing, and that went very uncomfortably because her character was a little off-put, or off-putted.
It works.
Yeah. So, but it was fun. It was just like really awkward because she was real paranoid, like, Dark Elves tend to be. But yeah, just keep on going that. Of course, Injustice 2 came out, but that has nothing to do with roleplay, but damn is it fun. So, all right, so we got a few stories. I'll go ahead and hit up mine first, which actually is kind of a continuation on what I had mentioned last time, which is that Wild West Online. I had said last time that it was going to be crowdfunded, and if they got up to a certain point, they would also include the female characters from the outset, and it turns out that's not going to happen now. Apparently somebody coughed up, the investors in the game that had gotten it where it already was, had coughed up the extra $250,000, and so they're not actually going to do the crowdfunding thing whatsoever. And 612 Games is just going to have the women characters at launch with no extra strings attached or anything like that, and it still looks like a pretty badass game. They're also, I think, did they say, yeah, they're also not going to enter the early access pre-release initiative like they do on Steam, like so many freaking games have done recently, where they release the shitty, broken, busted ass version of it and then be like, hey, pay us full price for this to beta test it for us. Which, you know, unfortunately, tons and tons of people are doing. I was one of them until I got totally burned by it. EverQuest Next, which we've mentioned on the show before.
Yes. The good old extortion for early access.
Mm-hmm. But so I'll no longer be doing that now. If you want me to actually beta test your game and all that stuff, and just give me an invite so that I can do that, and I'll report for stuff for you, I'll do that. But I'm not paying to work for your company. But thankfully, they won't be doing that. So I look forward to. I'm looking over the photos right now. It really was. I didn't realize too that there was a 2-day window where pictures from the game released, and I think I did say it last time, but people thought it was Red Dead Redemption 2 leaked footage, and it turns out it was this game. Which, if you're familiar with Red Dead Redemption and have seen the trailer for the second one, that's saying actually quite a bit. So. But yeah, that's kind of my story. It's not really huge, but since it was a follow up on what I'd done, I figured I'd better hit that up. And with Sib being out, of course she won't have one. Jazz didn't have internet, so she's kind of SOL.
Well, I did find something.
Oh, did you get one?
EQ
Okay.
too.
Okay,
it was just a blip on how miserable EQ2 is. So I read that with tongue in cheek.
Well, let's hear how horrible the game we all once loved and adored is. Unfortunately,
it was just about how hard, basically the same stuff. It was funny because they were putting it as if this was like the first time this had ever happened, i.e. game comes out, only people that can do content are raiders.
Right.
I was like, and that's not new.
Yeah.
So that was funny because what they were actually finding fault with was something that EQ2 has done forever. So what was it that was shards that we had to get and make armor with? Remember that one? You had to do all this stuff ad nauseum.
Morzia Kesha.
Yeah.
Yes. And that was next to impossible to do at first. I mean, it took forever. So yeah, I was amused at it because I was reading about a game I used to love, but also amused because this group of people that wrote this were complaining about something that EQ2 has always done. So
yeah,
and a lot of games do. You know, they release an expansion with the in-game / raiders giving them something hard to do and really not caring about
the 90% of the rest of the community. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
At all. And then we all have to play catch up until we can play it too. And it's a really crappy way of doing business, but not a surprise. We all knew that already.
Yeah.
So.
And one of the conversations, I think you weren't part of it last night because you don't have internet.
Yeah.
But we were actually chatting about that last night. Someone said in the thing, I think it was it Strafe, was it you or was it Typhon that had mentioned that what they seem to be doing now is every expansion for EQ2 and a lot of other games at this point is they just like, well, we can't really jack up the numbers anymore, so let's introduce a new stat, you know?
Yeah.
I believe that was Typhon.
Was it
Typhon?
Typhon?
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, it was Typhon.
Yeah, we had talked about that before too. They just change everything with each, but they don't change the back game.
Mm-hmm.
So as you progress, you have to change everything over and over and over again, and it's really frustrating for people that.
And then it just makes the back, and then it just makes the old content that much easier, which
and useless
and face roll. Yeah, you just face roll through it.
Yeah, half the stuff that you had to work for in Morzia Kesha was made completely redundant by the following expansion. Why even do the content?
Yeah.
Whereas originally, you still had to go through all the zones before you could get to where you could do in content. But now it was like, why even bother doing Morzia Kesha?
Mm-hmm.
Most people skipped it altogether because you were max before you ever got there, so nobody ever did it. Because why?
It's just dead content.
Yeah, because they formed this whole expat around doing X, Y, and Z, which was made completely null and void by the next one, and it's just a really crappy business model. I will never understand that ever.
My critique, and that's a good segue, was what they're doing now was they're just updating old content and pushing it out like it's new and just making it hard so people go back to this old stuff, and that's a really poor business model, just in my opinion, but that's what I was complaining about the other day.
Yeah.
I agree with that, too, because they're not actually fixing anything.
They're polishing a turd at this point.
Yeah.
Polishing a turd, still a turd.
They're making the zone new, but they're not fixing the zone. They're making another zone exactly like the previous zone. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, they're just Tom Cruise bronzing his daughter's first poop. I mean, that's pretty much where they're at now.
Just sad.
Which is actually not just a funny joke I'm making up. He actually bronzed his daughter's first solid poop. So, you're welcome, everybody. Just put that in mind. There's somewhere in a safe there is a bronzed poop.
I could have lived without that knowledge, but thank you very much.
Yeah, that's what I'm here for.
Excellent.
So, what you got?
Trivia I didn't need to know.
Yeah, well, I have all sorts of useless trivia. Shrimp's heart is in its head, and whales can't swim backwards. There you go. You're welcome. So what have you got, Strefe? I see you got something on here that's kind of near and dear to your heart.
Very near and dear, and since we were talking about EverQuest 2, naturally, I always think of EverQuest 1, and this is something I played with a few times throughout the years, was there is a project called Classic, with Classic EQ2, and mine called Project 1999, where you can relive the classic EverQuest MMO experience, just like it was in early 2000 and on. Mm-hmm. I believe they are currently up to Belly's content. I played it when it was before just the plain old Jane original game. I watched them patch to Kunark without any problems, and it was just like I was back in high school playing this game again. It was great. So, but with that, the caveat is it is all the extremely hard stuff you remember, the low character models, low poly count, the trains, the deaths, all the good stuff, the long boat rides. You remember?
Yeah. Oh yeah. The system where you don't just click like button 1 or 2. You actually have to type in like, what do you mean? I have to search for a coconut, and you have to hit the whatever. I think now they have it in parentheses, so you at least know what words to hit to actually get the NPC to talk more. Don't they?
Yeah, the quests were always very cryptic, and they did have the brackets around the word, the hot word you were supposed to say, but oftentimes you spent a good 10 minutes trying to word it just right so the NPC would talk back to you.
Yeah, because you couldn't just type, like, if the hot word was find coconuts, you can't just type in find coconuts. You have to be like, you have to respond correctly in a certain way, and it's not all, there's multiple ways to do it, but you had to be like, what do you mean to find coconuts? Question mark? Exclamation point? Both? I don't,
Or you had to make a statement like, I will find said coconuts.
I will find coconuts. I don't know why we're stuck on coconuts, but...
they're yummy.
Those are guys.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, what... Sorry, I went to Monty Python there for a second. How does a 2-ounce bird carry a 1-pound coconut? You're not even riding a horse. You're just banging 2 coconuts together. Well, where'd you get them from? This is what do you mean? Where do we get them from? Well, they're from the tropical zone. This isn't tropical. How'd they get here? Anyway, sorry. I love that.
Questions near and dear to all our hearts,
right.
I'm sure.
African or European?
African or European, Swallow.
That's right. So, yeah, that's cool. Yeah, and actually, funny enough, I had actually told Strefe when he had mentioned that that's what he wanted to do, that Project 1999 actually follows us on our Instagram. So, funny enough as it is.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. Yeah, they were one of the first people. Cool. Yeah.
And I will admit to...
They like a lot of the ones that are like old. There was one yesterday I did with a little baby. He had like his... He was sitting in his little chair, had a drink in his hand, looked like he was totally like an old man chilling with his little electronic John Deere tractor right behind him. And it's like, yeah, I just had his like, back in my day, Quest didn't have travel markers. We had to walk uphill both ways in the snow in newbie gear to find what we were looking for,
Totally.
I don't know why he sounds like someone from Maine, but...
The good old days of terrible... but glorious gaming.
Yeah.
Where there was no spoon feeding, and if you were a race, say you were a dark elf, for instance, and you decided to wander to said human town, and they decided they didn't like you very much, the guards would just run you through, and there was no ifs, ands, or buts. It was just that.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Thanks, Cersei. Oh, I've got a lovely bunch of coconuts. Diddly dee. Yeah, she's in our Discord chat. If for anybody not in there, you should be because it's always hopping
Totally.
and
So definitely, if you're feeling nostalgic, check that out. They
Yeah.
generally moderate it pretty well. There's no shenanigans in that server. And every once in a while, they get a dox attack, but for the most part, it's a stable,
and
classic
they don't charge
nostalgia from the
anything.
good old days.
Yeah,
they charge nothing.
Yeah, because they can't. That's what makes it legal. If they
That's
start
what
making
makes it
money off of it, they're gonna get pinged. So
For sure.
yeah, but they in there. What's funny is I actually heard Daybreak Games just released an old. I think it was this week actually. They released a old school, basically the same thing as Project 1999, and true to form, as MMOs were back in that day, it was plagued with crashes, lag issues, and people being unable to log on. So they really recreated that 1999 experience of playing an online game. I don't think it was intentional, but I mean, that's what you're logging in for, right?
Pretty much, and that's
Yeah.
part of that nostalgia.
Yeah. Oh, man. Been your 56K modem downloading that 25 gigabyte or megabyte patch. Oh, that was rough.
And then you hope no one called you because then your
Mhm.
patch is toast.
Yeah, you better hope that it goes all the way through because back in those days, it didn't continue where it left off. It just started over. So you could be at 24.5 and 25 megs and you're done. So, all right. Well, I think that pretty much concludes our news thing. We actually have a new sponsor here, and we're going to give it over to Strafe, the new guy, because it's his turn.
Come on down to the Gourmand's Crab Shack. Good eats for the whole family. Walk in hungry and leave with a few crabs in your belly, or on your person for laters. There is caveat though. Gourmand's Crab Shack not be responsible for any lost children, and any dim children's left over 5 hours will be promptly cooked. You has a nice day and come on down to Gourmand's Crab Shack.
Very nice, very nice.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I play a troll in EQ2, but I'm not a troll in real life.
Yeah. No,
Like
we actually have stories coming up that proves that otherwise.
Oh, I'm getting ratted out. All right,
Yeah,
fair enough.
Yeah. That's all right. It was before he was a role player. He was against us before he was for us. So
Sad but true.
okay, so we're gonna go into it's kind of a sticky topic on this one, and it's not one that really comes up, especially to the degree that we may be talking about it, but it has happened. It's actually happened to Strafe, which is why when we thought it was just going to be him and me, I sort of let him decide if we know what topic we want, and this is what he had come up with because he does have, and Jazz does as well, but he has a lot more experience with this kind of thing than I do because I'm sort of an asshole and I just tell him to go fuck off. So he's a lot nicer than me, and it took him a lot longer to get to this. But
honest to God, I really think that is the secret.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you just got to be a cold-hearted douchebag.
I really think I'm not kidding. I think Strafe will agree with that. I stopped having an issue when I stopped dealing with it. When I was like, you know what, you're nuts. Go away.
Yeah.
When you realize the method of madness will never learn, you can kindly and coldly step away.
Mm-hmm.
You can still be friendly, but that does not mean you need to get back into the mire that is that mess.
Yeah.
Yes.
So what is it you may ask that they are speaking of? It is when okay, so I'll start with the disclaimer here. We understand, and for some reason, a good number of people that do role play and are creative types a lot of us are socially awkward or maybe suffer from serious mental health issues like depression, anxiety, low self-esteem or self-worth. That stuff happens in the online space that we are consuming as role players. A lot of times let's for lack of a better word, because it's been kind of tainted, is a safe space. But not the kind of safe space of college campuses because somebody said fart and they're offended by it. And
it's escapism at the end of the day.
It's escapism. It gives them a control over their life that they don't have in the real world. And that can be healthy. I actually had seen, there's an article that had just come out, And I remember Dungeons and Dragons in the 70s was the devil. That's how people learn how to cast spells and summon demons from the
I
other
cast
world.
a spell.
That's right. Now, apparently, therapists are actually using Dungeons and Dragons on autistic and abused children as a way to get them to come out, because they separate, like, especially with autistic kids, they're able to separate themselves and be a little bit more open as this character as opposed to who they actually are. And they found that something like that has been rather useful. And honestly, it's a lot of this. It's basically the exact same thing we do here in roleplay. So, with that said, we're not, if you have depression or suffer from this stuff, it sucks. I know it's a dark place, and we're gonna still make light of it, because honestly, that's the only way I know how to deal with anything, is to make fun of it.
Sometimes dark humor is the best medicine.
That's right. And and it's not everybody, obviously. We're all pretty well adjusted, around here. We all have our families. We all have, our eccentricities and our ticks, boobies, and we're pretty well adjusted, and it sucks when it happens. So we're gonna go and put the disclaimer out there already. We get it. It sucks. If you're seeking help, awesome. If this is your outlet, awesome. But there are those that are so far into this they get so far into this space that they lose that line between fantasy and reality. They lose the line between what is real and what is in game, and they cross over from the in character and the out of character friendship that you make when you know somebody in character for a long time, as I have with Strafe and Jazz here. I've been friends with them both as characters and, in Strafe's case, as enemies, as characters.
Mortal enemies.
Mortal enemies, and more than friends in all actuality. Yeah. But as, and our characters have had some serious knockdown, drag out, verbal and physical fights that have gotten really nasty. He's still my brud. My brud. You're my brud.
And I will admit, at the end of the day, Xana said something about my character. He said one day he'll probably end up like me, and it's a sad fact that he slowly is turning into that, which is to the great angst of my character.
Yeah, he turned into he went so bad. It's he went full circle and went good. Yeah. But so we're gonna put that out there. So what we're talking about is, when you're involved with somebody else's character, you get to know them. You get to know them out of character. You get to know them as a person and as an individual. And it's all well and good. Friendships are good, but just like real life friendships that some people get soured on that, and they start to get what'd you say? I want to say clingy and needy, but there's a better word that's for it, but I can't think of it right now.
Well, I would say it's more about control. They try to control everything.
Jealous.
About, not just, jealous, controlling,
jealousy.
Insecure, constantly having to know where all of your characters are, and it
don't forget to throw a dash of manipulation in there as well.
Right.
That kind of goes along with controlling. They're using passive aggressive and aggressive controlling measures to try to keep you close to them in a very panicked sort of way, and it turns into a stalker situation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's why our episode is titled "You Might Be a Stalker If." You might be a stalker if the second you log in, you send somebody 14 tells before their load screen has completed.
True story.
True story. That is a true symptom right there.
Yeah. So, it's.
And it's not. Dude, I was loading.
Yeah, and it's not something too that happens right away. Like it can slip into this unhealthy relationship very slowly, very subtly. That
very insidiously.
Yeah, and then one day you just realize, like, oh, holy crap, dude, some space would be nice. So this is. That's kind of where we're going to go out with. And it, like I said, this isn't something that happens a ton. It's actually fairly rare, but it does happen. And when it does happen, it can seriously damage and ruin your roleplay and your want to even log into the game, as Faye can attest to. Because how long did you bail because of some of this stuff?
Well, there was times I would disappear for a month,
Yeah.
and there was times I would disappear for half a year.
Yeah.
And
I'll be honest, I did not notice either time.
oh, I know,
You too.
but that was good.
But it. Yeah, and that's when it's unhealthy at that point. And no, seriously, you're not a stalker. You're actually one of the good ones. She's just very
Well, I think there's a difference,
very
and
puppy-like in her excitement.
There's a difference between your friends when you log in, they send you to like, "Hey, what's up?"
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And you get maybe 1 or 2 tells, and that's it, or you get a smiley face.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, and
It's
like
cool.
I said,
But when they start saying, "Are you mad at me? What's the matter? Why aren't you talking to me? Where are you? Why aren't you answering me? What's the matter? You need to talk to me, or I'm going to get mad." And
and all that took place within 30 seconds.
Yeah, within a couple minutes. While like one time I logged in, and then because I have life and kids, I had to get because it never fails. The moment you log in, everybody wants your attention. You were like, "Oh, it's fine. The kids are all calm and down. I can log in." And then the minute that you try, mom. So I had to go AFK. And when I came back, I swear, not more than 2 or 3 minutes later, I had 15 tells.
Wow. Yeah.
Starting off with hi and ending with, "If you don't talk to me, I'm never speaking to you again."
I will admit that one of my best tricks in my sleeve was when I got 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 tells. As soon as I logged in, I would just type /Q and pull the old link dead trick.
Alt tab out and
oh, I totally don't know what happened. I guess I lost connection.
It's just my internet. Yeah, and that's the thing. You shouldn't even have to feel like that, especially when you literally just logged in. You logged in because you wanted to do something. You wanted to play the game, not because you wanted to be like, well, let's see if I can watch Law and Order SVU for the 15th time again instead of doing this.
Because it's less stressful. Yeah.
Right. Dun dun. Let's watch another woman that was probably raped and then murdered with her ribcage showing. It's a lot easier to deal with than this bullshit.
Yep.
So, and that's like I said, it's a slow crawl to get there too, and you usually don't, unless you have experience, you really don't see it coming. And like he was saying, there's a difference between what we're talking about and like I know Sib, she'd probably mention it, that she worries because she's seen me get like I don't have the other problem that some people have had, but I have had a few people that just like, it's like, okay, come on, just chill out just a little bit, give me a second. But now she's all paranoid about being like that. But the fact that she's you shouldn't have to worry about just being friendly with somebody, if you're friends with them. This is something far different, and usually the person on the other end, they're not actually entirely unaware of what they're starting to do, because it is, as he said, so manipulative. And like what was it you had told me one thing where you were doing, they started getting, like, anytime you role played with anybody else, period, what were they starting to do?
So typically what would happen is if I decide to log on any of my other tunes to go do something else, I would start getting these tells of, "Why aren't you on your main? What are you doing? Which zone are you in? Who's there with you?" Like, seriously, it was like the jealous girlfriend treatment at some point. And yeah, it gets really, you get to where you don't even want to play, and you can tell these people, "Hey, slow your roll. I mean, just calm down. I'm just trying to do. I'm harvesting nodes. What are you?
I'm gathering wheat.
This node is showing off its resources to me, and I guess if you're jealous, you could come give it what for. But I'm just trying to get the rares."
I am just saying that this one side of this rock looked like a pretty sweet ass, but it's still a rock. You crazy lunatic.
As you said, it does start slow sometimes. My first experience with it, I didn't even think it was a thing. I was actually on the good guy RP side, and this lady was RPing with me. She was married in real life. We were kind of friendly OC, but not too much. But she got to the point where it ramped up to where she was ready to leave her family and her kids to come find me. And at that point, I was like, okay, time to make an alt and time to disappear. And that's how I ended up on the evil side, and that's when y'all met me.
Homewrecker.
The problem was she followed me, and then Jazz had to deal with it as well.
Yep.
See, yeah. And I, being who I am, was completely oblivious to all of it. But yeah,
you
see,
were there, bro. But I don't think you. Yeah, you
yeah,
didn't.
I don't think I knew you that well at that point to let in on something that
Yeah.
that
I let
ugly.
Jazz know, but she was the boss,
Yeah,
and I was like, "Hey, this is the situation." I tried to come over here. She found out.
yeah. So we'll go ahead and go into that. How did you guys have to? I mean, it gets to a point like that person is at this point. I mean, that's saying that they're gonna leave their family and try to find you. That's
She had to be told.
that's like a Lifetime movie bullshit right there.
Yeah, it is.
You know?
It's pointless drama, and I don't know where. I understand people are unhappy, but
yeah. I mean, anybody
she
who's married
was told
understands
that, hey, this is a game. Just remember, this is a game. There's, none of this is real. But it didn't really matter. And how it ended up going, what I had to literally walk her into breaking the rules of the guild hall.
Right.
And once she did that, she got drug up on charges, and she finally just rage quit, and we never saw her again. And so I got lucky on that one.
And I
Right.
played along with it because as I explained to him, if we keep this IC,
But it
it's
took an
less likely-
IC action to actually get her to snap
Yeah.
out of it and leave, which was
Yeah.
creepy.
But I've had to do that a lot. That's actually not uncommon, and it actually works cleaner and with less drama than having a conversation with someone that doesn't ever sink in.
Yeah, and let's be clear too. Before all this, because I know there might be some people out there thinking, well, that's kind of mixing and metagaming on our part, and in a way, you're right. But keep in mind too that I can guarantee you, knowing these two, that before they did what they just said they did, he especially would have, and I imagine you too, Jazz, probably tried to talk this chick into some, just wake the hell up. Do you are you listening to what you're saying? That and so they tried to do it the real life way, basically like a like human to human, and
yes,
that didn't work, and yet something in their characters did, which that is at its center. What's wrong with that particular person's mindset?
When you have somebody that has lost the ability to tell the difference between real life and game, and you have to also keep in mind, and as someone who works with the handicapped and mentally ill, I can tell. I should know better, which is only going to make what happened to me worse. But anyway, knowing in the back of your head this person is mentally ill, you don't want to hurt them. You don't want to send them into some kind of a tailspin, but you're trying to manage the situation so that Strafe doesn't want to stop playing, doesn't want to disappear. Your only option at that point is to play to that issue in the sense of, yes, it is a form, in my opinion, of metagaming or god modding, because you're taking the situation, but we simply followed the storyline and presented things until she broke the rules, and then all I had to do was enforce the rules I see, and it pushed itself into
and then they rage quit
right.
OOC and leave. Yeah. Which, like I said, that's like that's the nuclear option at that point.
But sometimes you're not left with any other option, because you don't want to hurt them, you don't want to cause the guild drama, you don't want it to come out in the open. You can usually manage to keep it IC. That's really, a lot of times when you're dealing with mentally unstable people, it's actually easier to do it that way and kinder to them as well as yourself.
To play to play into the disorder.
And Ashton, as you said, I did it. We back in the days of TeamSpeak. Myself and my best friend, because we were both playing on the good side of RP then, we called her up and we told her, it's like, hey, look, this is not a real thing. That you need to stop. This is we're sensitive that we're your friend, but at the same time you're taking this way too literal, and this will never happen. Well, she took that as I was just mad at her, and a week later she was back up to her old tricks, and that's when I moved over to the evil side, and that's when y'all met me.
Mm-hmm.
So I did try the right way, and then I had to try the nuclear way.
Right. Yeah. And that's and like I have it in here that honesty is like they say, honesty is the best policy. You try to be upfront and honest with people, and you always go that route first. But some people, they don't want to hear it. They don't want to hear the truth. They don't want to. It won't. Even if they hear it, they don't see it that way. They can't even understand where you're coming from. Like,
Right.
you're just basically speaking Klingon at that point, you know.
Yeah. And in my experience and opinion, you have two kinds of people that do this, really. You have people who are aware that they're doing it, or are doing it because they want attention, narcissists, or however you want to look at it. They're still mentally ill, they're still having issues, but it's more with awareness. And then you have people who have no real idea. I mean, they are so far gone, they don't know that they're doing it.
Yeah, and I think you had, Jazz, there was one it was before we're not going to say names of characters, or we're not calling people out, but these are
of the first kind.
Yeah, these are our experiences. So we're going to talk our experience. You know, if that person ever happens to listen in and they figure out who it is, well, you know.
Oh well.
You know, maybe don't be a shithead. Don't be
change
so
the names to
time.
protect the innocent.
That's right.
Yeah. Names and details.
The stories
that might
are
give them
same,
away.
but the names have been changed to protect the innocent. Dragnet.
Yeah.
Cue the Dragnet music.
That's right. So before Xanis got into evacuating your character's life in EverQuest 2, you had somebody else before. Do you want to talk about some of how that went down and how you ended up having to deal with it?
It's like you said, it happened very slowly. I should have known. I've worked with abused women. I've worked with mentally ill people. I've almost my whole life. My whole family's nuts. So I have lots of experience in seeing and citing the red flag scenario and knowing when to start backing away. But it just never happened. And by the time I realized that I was in trouble, I did not know what to do because I didn't want to hurt him. And I didn't want to cause any more issues with the guild than had already happened. And I knew my husband was getting to the point where he wanted to find him and kill him. And I had offers from other people to do just that.
Hey, I'm not saying things bad might happen to him, but I'm just saying bad things might happen to him, if you know what I'm saying. But I'm not saying it.
Yeah, it got really nasty. And
yeah, he got very. I remember because I was good friends with you at that point, and him and I went around a few times as well.
But I don't think anybody realized that it was OC initially. I think people thought that he probably had some OC issues, but I don't think that they realized the level of.
No, and I only did because of you. I had become real good friends with you at that point.
Yes, and I finally confided in you.
Yeah.
And told you what was going on, and you were just blown away.
And now I drag it out in front of hundreds of
You're
people.
You're like, how did you let this happen?
For their entertainment, no less.
That's right.
Yeah,
our misery is your entertainment. You're welcome, everybody.
Ta-da!
Yeah, so I mean, both my husband and you both kind of said the same thing. Why didn't you put the brakes on before now? I really just didn't see it. And when you care about someone and you form a relationship with someone as a friendship and you have no issue, it is really hard because you're not crazy.
Yeah.
To realize that you are in over your head and this person isn't just uncomfortable or clingy or just feeling out of it.
Or
or
lonely
issues.
And just looking for a friend. But they're
not just lonely. These people have taken lonely to like narcissistic levels. It has become something
narcissistic. Did somebody say my name? Hello, I'm Donald Trump. Everybody, welcome. Thank you. I want to appreciate everybody for having me on here today. It's a wonderful podcast. It's huge. Everybody says so. It's just the way it is. It's the best podcast. Thank you. And good night.
Back to the stairs.
Back to topic. She is right because they do get in subtly. You feel bad for at first, and it's a slow burn, and then you get to the point where you realize you're in over your head.
And and every time that you think that, oh well, you know, you always try, you know, like you're a human being, okay? You always try to build those people up around you. You're not gonna be like, yeah, you're right. You sure are a worthless piece of shit. That I'm surprised nobody likes you. You know, nobody says that.
There's no scorched earth. Most of the time, you would be compassionate
for a lot of people. But that's usually my job.
You don't want to hurt them, and so by the time you realize that they have crossed into they want to hurt you.
The danger zone.
I would dare say the Twilight Zone at that point.
Yeah, it's the Twilight Zone. And I actually had a friend, now that I think about it, it was you, said, stop trying to figure it out. Stop trying to understand. You can't understand crazy because you aren't.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
Stop. And that was where I realized that I was trying to make sense of something that was never going to make sense.
It's that old Bebe's Kids. Everybody remember that?
Oh yes.
Bebe's Kids. What was it? The one old guy says, beauty's only skin deep, but ugly is to the bone.
Ugly's to the bone.
And that's again, a lot of it they can't even help it. And maybe they could, but even every time that's what's insidious on it sometimes, because you do try to help them, and for a time, because nothing is a constant. When it comes to depression and mental illness, it comes in waves that are more like tsunamis. And I lost my dad to mental illness. He started to have a chemical imbalance. We think what happened was that he was spraying a pesticide at a tree, wind shifted, and it blew it directly into his face. And this was something, I don't know why he had it, but he did. And slowly after that, he started to have some serious anxiety and mental issues. And if anybody that knew my dad, he was a solid, knew how, he was just a salt of the earth kind of guy, knew how to fix cars, loved remote control planes. He was a man's man kind of thing. And after that, he slowly started to degrade into paranoia, thinking people were going to bust in our windows and everything like that, and to the point where it eventually, at age 50, it cost him his life when he, driving with my grandpa, from Texas up here to Oklahoma, had stopped taking his medication. That's another problem, is people that are on medication, when you start to feel better, don't fucking stop taking the medication. You're only feeling better because of the medication. That doesn't mean you could stop because you're better. But he went in waves like that too. And my grandpa said, my Papa Allen is what we call him, had said, we're almost there, and then you can get out. At 65 miles on the road, all my dad heard was, you can get out. And he opened the door and got out on the freeway. And that was the end of my dad. So,
man, I'm sorry, brother.
Yeah, I appreciate it, but it's been a long time, but I know, and that's we're talking extreme cases. That's an extreme case of mental illness. But some of the people that we deal with in roleplay that do these kinds of things, it's not that far off. They actually are, and that paranoid that, like Strafe was saying, you log on to something else. You're talking behind their back. You're ignoring them. You're not, you hate them. They've done something wrong to slight you, and they can't help but have that stuck in their head, like a pebble in the shoe. It just stuck in their brain.
Yeah.
And
it's not. Yeah, I don't blame this gent that did that.
Right. No.
Like that he was just mentally ill, but that didn't change the fact.
Right, but we still have to deal with that, and when they get cruel and mean. And that was the other thing. My dad, I'm just going to use this because it's, like I said, it's something I've experienced with on this one. He was a very kind-hearted man, but after this, when that imbalance started to happen, he started to get mean. He started cursing and saying things to myself and my sister and my mom that he, in his right mind, would never have said. It wasn't in him, but because he wasn't himself anymore, it's what came out. He could just get in these loops where he got mean. And, that's why I say, we're kind of, we poke fun at stuff, but, when it comes to mental illness, it is a serious issue. But
it's very serious.
Sometimes it's so serious, you have to poke a little fun at it. But but like everything, just like with my dad, we were left to deal with it. We had to do the best we could do. And when it comes to roleplay and role-playing with people that get to this point or that have very similar issues, as people that they know online, we're the ones that are stuck dealing with it because for whatever reason they've latched on to Strafe, or they've latched on to Jazz, and you're then stuck dealing with that. And typically too, on like a lot of these, it's not just one person that they've latched onto either. Like I know for a fact, both of you, you weren't the only one this person was running through the mud and manipulating. I know for a fact the one Strafe is talking of, she manipulated everybody around her and got it constantly. I mean, there was one point where if I remember right, she actually had somebody else go in and through roleplay and try to change everything around somewhere to benefit her. And when it fell apart, she left that person that she had manipulated out to dry and just left her flapping in the wind. And the poor girl, she didn't know what the hell had happened. She had no idea what happened. I'm pretty sure she just disappeared after that. So there's a trail of bodies behind some of the people that get, this way.
And they don't recognize their patterns, and they keep doing them.
Yes,
and the same things keep happening, and then they wonder what happened.
And it's also important when you're dealing with this to understand, like you said, you're not going to understand it because you're sane. And the other thing is, it's not going to end well.
Yeah.
This is probably the most important thing to tell people, and I have several times now with people that have been in my similar situation, because they're like, I just want this to end quietly. It's not going to. It's going to be messy. It's going to suck. How much it sucks is going to be up to you.
Yeah.
And as you said, every time I would come back from my long breaks, it didn't matter where this person was, and this is the second situation of stalkery and ridiculousness. It didn't matter where they were in the game, they would immediately drop all these other people's, create a whole bunch more bodies, and they come running back to the situation they had with my characters. And I was like, oh my gosh.
And if I'm not mistaken, too, it wasn't even one game. Like, you would be followed from game to game, too. That was the case, too, right?
That is completely accurate, yes.
Yeah, see, so, and that's... and there's a difference too. Like I said, like we were saying before, like I've bounced around and followed Jazz from one game to another. But
I told you about it, and I wanted you to.
Right. Well, yeah, exactly. And she's followed me, like to games because we're friends. That's what we do. And it's and there's been plenty of times where she's interested in a game that I gave a shot, and I'm like, sorry, hon, it's just not my cup of tea. But the thing is, that's where it ends. And I mean, we still talk, and we talk through all, everything outside of those games, but that's where it ends. I don't get pissed off at her because she doesn't like the game I'm playing, or me because I don't like the game she's playing. And eventually we'll probably bounce back to the, as happens now, ESO,
we both actually like the same game for a change.
Yeah. Because, that's one of the reasons we're all friends, and same with Strafe.
That's a funny story about ESO.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
Yeah. He's gonna bring up a comment I made that was in jest, but I didn't realize when I say. Here's the thing about me: I say a lot of things most of the time, not realizing how shitty it actually sounds on the other end. Go ahead. Just get it out of the way. Get it out of the way. What did I say?
Okay, so back when ESO was announced, I remember saying something to the effect of, "Well, when that comes out, I'll be there." And everybody else had said, oh, we're going to go here, we're going to go there. And I just didn't like the other options. And I'm a big Elder Scrolls fan anyway. And I said that. I was like, yeah, I'm going to be here. And I think it struck a nerve somewhere, because I remember Ashton saying, oh, that's a dead game, this and that, and have a good time playing alone.
I actually said, I said it in a masturbatory way. I said, have fun playing with yourself.
Yes, he did. I was trying to be nice, bro. But yeah.
No. If you're going to quote me, you better quote me. That's
have
comedy
a great time
gold right there.
Have a great time playing with yourself.
Yeah. And so I did. I jumped over to this game, and I was sitting there giggling, going, haha, I'm here by myself. Kind of a funny haha. And I was lurking around.
Hold on. Before you continue. Yeah, is that plate of crow ready? Okay, yeah, bring it over here.
All right.
Okay, yeah, just put that. Okay, I got my crow here. Go ahead, keep going.
Okay. So I told Jazz, I was like, hey, man, I'm playing ESO. It's pretty excellent. Like, I got into grad school, the game had matured, and I was having a blast. I was like, hey, man, this is great. And at the time, we were dealing with a huge amount of drama. Huge! It
was absolutely huge, unlike my hands.
The worst, but yes. So I told her, she came over, and she's like, I'll give it a try, because I believe they were all playing a different game at the time, and I had no interest in it.
BDO when you guys, I was in Final Fantasy when you guys finally came back to ESO.
Yeah, you were in Final Fantasy, and it didn't really grab me, so I was like, well, that's cool. They're all over there. At least we know where our friends are. And she jumped over. She's like, this is great. And everybody started trickling over, and I kept watching. I kept waiting for Ashen to roll over. I was waiting with his quote in hand.
Son of a bitch.
And the day he lurked over, and he got in voice chat, it's like, is this Ashen? Yes, it's Xanis. It's Ashen. It's like, okay. You remember that time I said have fun playing with myself? Yet here you are. And it was a good moment.
Yeah, let that be a lesson to you. Sometimes things you say bite you in the ass. But to be fair, ESO was completely garbage for that first year.
It
was rough early on.
So bad.
He had to, because I had gone to Final Fantasy when the drama levels had reached the point that I finally just couldn't excuse the toxicity anymore. And I had gone to Final Fantasy from EQ. And I also had ESO, but I had not played it since beta. And because it was such an atrocious, horrible game, I did not buy it. So he tells me about it, so I go ahead and I buy it. And I was like, well, at least I'll role play. Maybe I'll just be level 3 forever. But I'll at least go try it for it. And I fell in love with the game, and here I am.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Level 200 something now, I think.
249?
She's a beast. Yeah.
Man, she can hear you. I wouldn't call
But that was an old troll.
Calling women a beast. Gee.
I had saved that trolling for I don't know how many years it was.
It had to have been at least 3, because it had to be probably about 2.5, because
yes,
I gave ESO. That's why I'm with Servants of the Temple, because that was the guild I was in back when the game came out. But
right.
It also it was so hard to roleplay in that game at the beginning because like I said, I think I've told the story. The very first thing the Servants of the Temple did as a roleplay thing is they gathered together with another guild, and we RP traveled for an hour and a half through Morrowind to a certain place where we're supposed to have like a conclave of 2 guilds getting together, and it turned out only 6 friggin' people could fit in the damn building out of like 20 to 30 that had made this entire trip and were looking forward to seeing this whole thing happen. And only 6 people could fit in there. And, and then, of course, the whole thing fell to shit because then everyone's scrambling like, well, do we just hold it outside here in the middle of nowhere? Or do we try to just do it the 6 guild leaders and leave everybody in the lurch? And, but even then, everybody outside, there's animals attacking some of them because the levels didn't work the way they do right now. It was
nightmare.
Awful. And now I think you can fit all of 7 people into a building, so it's much better.
Oh yeah.
Depending on a lot of the buildings, each one of the housings at least, they fit a lot more. And I think the interior buildings, like the inns and the cities, they pretty much fit as many as you want into them now.
Which is a nice touch.
Yeah. Which is how it should have. But that's after that one Tamriel thing. This was pre that, and it was the instancing was so hard on roleplay.
It was very rough then, and I was still in grad school, so I didn't even get to play it. I got to beta test it, but I was having to do master's thesis work. By the time I got back out, I found everybody back in EQ2. The drama had been so thick on the server. Some of the people were describing, some others that are around in the game still, I believe, that I was like, dude, this is not even worth it anymore. No one wants to log in. I said, I'm just going to do something else. And we found a haven, which is nice.
Yep. Yeah. Yep. And it is worked. Yeah. But I figured that would probably come up. So we just had to get that out of the way.
Yes.
By the way, this crow is it's not bad, actually, if you cook it just right. It's
well, I hear Gormal's Crab Shack supplied it. So
right. It's feathers weren't plucked, which is a little weird, but also makeshift toothpicks. So
there you go.
So
works
anyway,
nice.
Yeah, but it's a hard, what we were talking about earlier. It's a hard issue to deal with, and sometimes the only way to there's a point where you have to stop trying to help them, and you have to help yourself. And you can do it like how they've said earlier, where they managed to get the girl to go away, or you could just, and you're probably, some people are probably saying, well, just put them on block. Well, the problem with that is, too, while that does work and you personally won't see them, they're still there. And even if they know they're doing that, they're gonna keep manipulating people around you. And we've seen it time and again where they basically poison the well of everyone around you, because they're not stupid people. They're ill maybe, and they don't.
And in some cases,
some of them are just insidious.
Right. And in some cases, you spent years role playing with these people before you realized the snake that they are,
Yeah.
and you're tied. A lot of your role plays tied up in some of these stories, and suddenly you're kind of trapped.
Yeah. You've when it all vanishes, when everyone vanishes around you, your characters, you're then in a lurch, and you've got
right.
And
if they've been successful in poisoning the well, then
Yeah.
you're in persona non grata amongst the whole community for just trying to stick up for yourself. It's
Yeah,
crazy.
Been there, done that.
Yeah, and that's another aspect of some, and not all of them, but I know at least a few of them we've known, is they have we've actually called it a cult, and it is literally a cult of personality. That they
It totally is.
They it's like the
they have their sycophants.
Yeah, it's the David Koreshes and the Heaven's Gate cult kind. I mean, and I say that it's actually not that far off. I mean, given they're not drinking the Kool-Aid, but they are drinking the Kool-Aid, because I personally don't have to know how to do it. I'm frankly just not smart enough, or I just don't give a shit enough to be able to manipulate people like that. But they have gotten it to a point where the people that they're quote unquote friends with around them, they crave this person's attention to the point where they will do almost anything they ask for,
and they don't see it,
even against their better judgment. Like the gal I had mentioned earlier that had tried to change things somewhere and then got left out to dry. She didn't see that coming. That was it was literally like it's a cult of personality, and we've had the problem too, and that's sometimes where guild splits come into, is because that one person has gathered and garnered so much support and attention to themselves, and people are always clamoring to please them, to gather more attention for themselves, that they literally will just follow them from game to game. Just every they could go from one game to the other, and within the next day, however long it takes to download, those same people will be there. And now it's not always like that. Some of them are just they're just friends and stuff like that, but they're for the people that we're speaking of specifically, and the types of people that are like them, it's far beyond that. It's way more. It's way darker. Way darker.
And the problem is when you get invested in these people, like they're your friends, and you don't see it, and you're trying to give them the shoulder to cry on. You realize how their life is really kind of crap, and you kind of give them advice, and you're trying to do the right thing. You're feeding into this whole loop of this black hole they suck you into. And it's not till later that you realize it, and by that time, you kind of know this person more than you should. And it's really hard to get out. But you can do it.
Yeah, you can. And somebody in the chat here, Barrelbird, it says that she's on, or he or she, rather, I don't know off the name, is on the extreme end of this, and they tend not to get attached to people online to avoid these things. And that is one way to do it, but there are also... Like we were saying, this is an extreme case, and there are a lot of really cool and awesome people online and in roleplay communities. I'm talking to two of them. My wife is another one, and we have an entire guild's worth of pretty good people. It's just you don't want to miss out on those possible lifelong relationships and friendships like I'm gonna have with Jazz and Strafe here, probably until I don't know, the internet shuts down and there's an EMP blast.
For sure.
And I'll lose track of all of you. So, I mean, and I understand that if that's what you have to do to protect yourself, by all means, whatever works for you. But just keep in mind, if you see somebody and they seem like they're kind of cool, don't be too afraid to put yourself out there, because the chances are 99 out of 100, they're going to be a normal, decent human being. And it's only this extreme 0.1% of people that are this bad. Now, there are people of lesser degrees that, are kind of shitty people too. I'm one of them. So, that works out. But it's when you're dealing with people like this, it's very important. And I'm going to say this because it's experience and giving people a heads up that it seems fairly harmless. And I've had people tell me, when I've mentioned this, that it's just online, it doesn't matter. It's like, well, see, here's the deal. If you don't stop it,
it doesn't stay online.
Mm-hmm.
Both of my serious stalkers took it in my real life, published my real life information, tracked me not only through games but through Facebook, posted horrible things about me that were blatant lies on web pages like
forums.
wikis,
and forums.
And this person went out of their way, and this, I don't think if you had told me when I had first met either one of these people that it could have gotten this bad. And by the time I realized that I was in over my head, I was struggling to get my footing and to figure out what the hell happened.
Yeah. And that was leading, and if I remember right too, it was on top of that, it was leading you towards depression and anxiety.
Oh God.
It put you in a really dark place as well, because you
and then my two stalkers worked in collusion with each other and came after me together.
I recall when I first got to when I first met you both, I just got to y'all's guild, and this person in question, or the people in question, had just left.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was recruited. I was told by some of these people and some of their hangers-on, their whole their clan of hangers-on, as Ashton described, oh, that guild is terrible, this and that. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna think for myself and try it out.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember Jazz being super depressed. And she would not confide to me till much later when she realized I was not a crazy person, that this happened. And I was like, oh wow. And then I explained to her, I was like, yeah, I've seen the websites, I've seen this, I've seen that.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't really believe them. I thought these people seemed like they were on a vengeance trip because they were angry.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's kind of like reaching into a fire and getting burned. You don't want to reach in again. And it had a serious effect on me, because I stopped role playing with anybody I didn't know. I retreated into myself. I had depression issues. I had almost a post-traumatic stress disorder kind of reaction to anyone that sent me a tell wanting to know more about me. That was 8 years ago that happened, and I am just now starting to role play more openly with strangers and people I don't know.
Yeah,
I recall you were pretty guarded, but then you started opening up during that time to me.
Yeah.
And
you were so sweet, and you listened.
It's definitely a curse.
Yeah, and he wore me down, because he was like, I don't know what's happened, because I didn't tell. Most people had no idea what happened until the web pages started popping up, and people were like, WTF, what is going on? And I just said, I had a little problem with someone. I very much downplayed it, and until I had to actually go to SOE at the time and get someone banned and get them so they could not contact me in any way, shape, or form. I mean, I had to I had to talk to a lawyer. Because it was getting to the point where it was scary.
Mm-hmm.
This person was crossing that line. And it also didn't help that the same person had blacklisted me with all the communities in the game of EQ. And everybody believed them. I even had somebody who kicked me off of their website say, well, these rumors wouldn't exist if there wasn't some truth to it, so we don't want you around.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, I was just scrambling, trying to get some sense of order to what had happened to me, because I didn't even see any of this coming. And this same chick that had done, and this gentleman who had done these two things to me, were rolling alts and continued to try to role play with me.
Yeah. They continued trying to get into the guild. Yeah.
Yeah, and trying to get into the guild and trying to role play with me on random alts, and it was like. And that's why kind of the scorched earth
and you got to the point where anybody under a certain level, you're like, I'm not messing with it until they're,
Nope. Unless they were a maximum character, I wouldn't even talk to them. I'd send one of my officers or whatever, because I didn't want to deal with it. Jazz
used to send my character out to greet these dubious people that are trying to get in our guild, and my character was a pretty nasty guy. He would be himself, and they would last all of 5 minutes, and they'd leave because they couldn't find an easy way in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah,
you, Xanis, and Tilder were my guardians.
Yeah.
Good old Tilder.
Yeah. Rest in peace.
My litmus test. If you could make it past those three, we probably were not my stalker.
Yeah.
If only, Ashen. If only.
Yeah, he's still around somewhere, I think.
He's still around, kicking around.
Yeah. Dead. I mean, he was kind of already dead, so it works. Rest in peace.
He was the bat that flaps in the night.
But yeah, so it's important at some point early on to go from I don't want to hurt them Do I need to protect myself? But at the same time, I learned you can't just shut off, because then I wasn't role playing and I was terribly unhappy and lonely because the one thing that I loved to do, I couldn't do anymore.
Right. And that's actually one thing. Sib and I have actually talked about this. We talk about you behind your back.
You don't say.
The time. And it's exhausting creating all these websites too, just so you know. It's not easy. It is really difficult. You know how hard it is to find that many pictures of a GIMP suit? I mean, it's not as easy as you might think.
Oh, God.
But anyway, we had actually made comments. We were talking at work about how you have actually, in ESO, you're branching out more again. That for the longest time, and not just in Q2, in every other game we went to, you basically stuck to your small core group of people that you already know, and you haven't branched out until literally this year. Really branched out.
Yeah,
I mean, given part of that is because EverQuest 2, there was nobody to branch out to, because everybody at that point was RP marrying their cousins, because there just ain't enough community in there, and they got a bunch of cross-eyed babies. But with ESO, it's such a healthy community. I would role play with people, but I would not talk OOC.
Mm-hmm. I'm sympathetic to her because I watched this happen, and when it did happen to me, I would just go to play Fallout or something. And
that's a good thing about it's a good
she'd
thing
call me later. Are you alive?
We're
Are you okay?
Single player gamers too. We don't just play the MMOs.
I'm not. I'm just an MMO girl. So
and I would come back once I had, my BS meter was back to empty, so I could deal with a lot more.
And it would fill back up in 24 hours.
And it would fill back up in 24 hours.
Seriously.
So yeah, it's an ugly thing, but I'm glad to see Jazz starting to branch out, because she's going more into the open role play things now. But it all stems from the issue that we're talking of, because it really can affect you on and make you very jaded and and ruin your experience and ruin your love and your joy out of something that you really, really like doing. I mean, she likes it enough, she's managed to power through it, but it's taken, like you said, it's taken 8 years to really kind of unwind and finally come out of your little armadillo ball. You're just now like, is it safe?
One finger at a time. Yeah.
But yeah, it's an ugly thing, and it's not the easiest thing to deal with, and like we were saying, it is actually fairly rare. But we have 2 people here, and I know how long have you been role playing here, Strafe? You said, what was your first? Was it Star Wars Galaxies?
Star Wars Galaxies was my first taste of RP.
Trolling.
We were actually, yes, I was trolling at first. I will get into that. They had a nice player town on I forget the planet, but it was we all met there. There was a band there called the Creedles. They were in-game RP band. It was pretty entertaining, but we'd go there pretty much to we were trolling. Let's be
serious. He wasn't a role player at this time.
But I started noticing the RP. I was like, that's kind of cool. And I was a dyed in the wool hater at the time, because
I had PvPer.
And a PvPer. Yeah, I was the dirtiest of dirty.
Kind of PvPer.
I was that guy that most RPers hate with a passion. To be justified in it, I had a real life girlfriend playing the game with me. She started hanging out with these RPers in the Bestine Cantina on Tatooine. Mm-hmm. And she joined their guild, and she started really RPing with it. She asked me if I was fine. I was like, I didn't know what RP was. I was like, yeah, sure. I had no idea the dark side of ERP, all that stuff.
Whatever, go ahead.
Yeah, I was sitting there playing with my friends, and we're all the Empire. We were out to troll rebels. And she got into this guild, and they hated me with a passion, and I lost a real-life girlfriend over it. And I mean, I hated RPers. I was like, these people are a bunch of crooks. They're a bunch of dirtbags. I'm going to get them.
They stole my woman.
And so we would go troll these guys. We would go to the bars. We would look for any opportunity to destroy them at every turn. And after a while, we just kept going to these RP bars, and I just kept going, oh, man, these guys are not all bad, because there's a few cool people here. And I slowly started getting into it, and forever I had this terrible reputation of killing role players, and I was like, well, look, it was only this guild. I had a lot of hate. I got over it, and I slowly came around. And by the time AVQ2 launched, and EverQuest, not EverQuest 2, but Star Wars Galaxy was dying a horrible death on fire while sinking in a hailstorm, I just embraced it. I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go full RPer. And I was still raiding and doing stuff in EQ2 then, but I just went full RPer. And it was great. I met a lot of cool people, but then I started meeting these people that had issues.
Yeah. And Billy Bird in the chat said the last time that they came out of their ball, someone pretended they were pregnant and lost their baby in real life. Holy crap, that person's a raving lunatic. That is awful.
That's the crazy we're talking about, though.
But that is the exact kind of crazy. That person, you run from. Yeah. But yeah, I can
just run.
I understand
just
why.
Run.
I think I understand a little bit where Barrel's coming from on that one. No, yeah, because that's just awful. Yeah, that's the whole. Yeah, I have a girlfriend in Canada, but she died while pregnant with my baby. Yeah. Okay, Lifetime movie. We're moving on. So yeah, we're gonna start wrapping up the show here, but we'll kind of on conclusion. Basically, you do everything you can, but you gotta in the end. You also there's a point like with any friendship when it gets poisonous and it gets ugly like that. You've got to cut it off. You cut your losses and. There may be consequences to doing that, as Jazz was talking about that, and we were talking on too that they'll poison the well around you. But in the end, it is a game, and I know it's easy just to say that because I love the games that I play. They're more than just a game. They're the form of entertainment I like. The way people get and paint themselves up for football games and. All that stuff, they're so passionate about that. It's the same exact way with us as gamers with video games. That for anybody that would be out there, for anybody listening to this, obviously they're going to understand this being a gamer. But
it's pen and paper roleplay and high def,
right? Yes.
And it is a very personal, creative process that you get to and have the privilege of other people liking what you do. So, and you guys allow each other to bounce things off each other. There's a level of trust that you actually have to put out there that the person is enjoying what you're doing and that you enjoy what they're doing. And that's part of the process where that it makes it so entertaining and so much fun. And when somebody comes in and is, the little dark rain cloud that just pours on everything, and the acid rain just builds and builds until it erodes your joy of that, is an analogy kind of goes. So but yeah, it is also, like we said, it's rare, but when it does happen, it is such a serious thing that it is definitely worth talking about and worth being on the lookout for. It's not the Red Scare where there's a communist role player behind every turn, every turn and every street corner. It's not quite
every
that
low
bad.
Poly tree.
That's right. Every low polygon tree could hide the Red Scare of bad role play. So, all right, you guys got anything you want to add in conclusion on there? Before we
just role play on.
Roleplay on. Rock on, my brother.
I mean, the only thing you got to do is you got to identify it early. If you can see it early, you don't have to stop being their friends, but just don't let them get too close so they can manipulate you. And keep your head above water. I think that's the best advice you could give somebody.
Yep, I agree.
Yep. Yeah, sounds good to me. And appreciate you guys tuning in today. Supposed to be an outro thing here. Oh, there's a button for that. So, appreciate you guys tuning in with us live, those of you that did. Anybody else, you can always check us out on Podbean or Google Play or what's the other one? iTunes. That's kind of the big one. If you listen to us on iTunes, we appreciate you if you gave us a review, a thumbs up, a like, subscribe, whatever. But that will help us get our name out there a little bit better, and we appreciate you guys doing that. Don't forget, we'll actually have some stuff coming with rphq.com. Give it a visit, and look forward to talking with the Human Floyd next week. Or not next week, but in 2 weeks from now. So until then, just tune in next time when we'll talk about halflings and why everybody we talked about was probably playing one. Next time on RP MMO Radio. Good night, everybody.
The thoughts and opinions expressed on RP MMA Radio are just that. They're not but pretty close to it. Music provided by Husky by the Beach. Visit him at youtube.com/Husky by the Beach for your own great rock coverage.